Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for the living legend himself, Mr. Glass. Oh, no! Why? Why does this keep happening? Oh, God, no! Oh, he had brittle bones. He had brittle bones. I should have known it was only a matter of time. Oh, no! What did you do, Mr. Glass? Did you fall in the bathtub? Did you fall in the bathtub? Probably not, because if you did, then you would be naked right now. And no! Is this the fate of every villain from that universe? Every single one of them? What's happening? What is happening? Oh, is this why he was chosen to be the presenter of Best Villain Death? Because he's a dead villain? Is that why? Is that why? What kind of sick joke is that? What kind of fucking sick joke is that?
I don't know about that. I also got crushed, smashed, and look at me. I'm a whole new person because of that. You're not supposed to just accept it as your death. You're supposed to see it as an opportunity to rebirth yourself.
Well, he didn't have the advantage of being exposed to satellites that create meta-humans. He was just easily touched, that's all. Just a simple little touch. Who the hell are you anyway? And why are you making fun of Mr. Glass? Not everybody is lucky enough to have an origin story from being crushed to death. Sometimes it's the exact opposite. It's their ending story. It's their death story.
Well, no, I will not say my name out of spite, since you seem to care more about that mangled husk than you do about me.
Are you Ragdoll?
How did you know?
Because of your Ragdoll physics.
I see you're still maintaining your sense of humor, despite the fact that everybody is dropping like flies.
It seems to be just people from the Unbreakable verse, and I need to know why. Although I don't think you know.
I'm afraid I don't, but I do like to socialize with the other Arrowverse villains, and there's been a lot of talk about an interdimensional being. So if anybody would be familiar with other universes, it would be that guy.
Well, do you think you could contact him for me?
I could, but on one condition. You let me present the next award.
Well, I guess it does make sense, because you basically died and then came back as a mangled living corpse, so I guess you're qualified.
Okay, we start with Jensen from Maze Runner 3. I forgot about this movie.
But I'll tell you something that's not forgettable. The Irish and or Scottish guy. That guy. Because if there's anything to take away from this, it's how he died. Because we knew he was going to be eaten by the zombies, and this is usually what happens to a bad guy in a zombie movie. But the specific way they did it, magnifique. Just the good old-fashioned cliche of the main character aiming at him, shooting, and the villain being all like, "Oh, you missed me. Oh, you seriously missed me." And then the main character goes, "Did I?" And then the villain looks back and is like, "Oh no! Oh, you broke broke the glass and now the zombies are coming to get me. Oh, classic cheesiness. Just the fantasticalness of seeing an overdone plot trope being done as if it's a straightforward and not at all tacky and hokey as all fuck.
It sounds like that's a reason why it wouldn't win.
Trust me, this is going to be the case with all of them. They're all ridiculously over the top and just real stupid. And that's what makes them memorable. Sometimes you have to be stupid if you want to be memorable. But the next one was stupid for a whole different reason.
Ah, yes. You're talking about the evil siblings from Rampage, the sister-brother duo that owned a business together.
And they were clearly fucking, just clearly fucking. A lot of incest going on off screen during this movie. Definitely 100%. But I'm not here to talk about the obvious incest. I'm here to talk about how they each got a over-the-top gruesome death.
Yes, when it comes to the sister of the duo, hers was very meaningful, because hers was a callback to the original game that this movie is based on.
Yeah, it seemed like they only took the really basic premise of the game and only went with that, because a really popular mechanic in the game is that when they get powered down, the three big monsters turn into little naked people. And it turned a lot of boys into men, I'll tell you that.
Are you referring to the lizard that turns into a naked woman?
Hey, don't be presumptive. I could be talking about any of the three. But it was kind of disappointing not to see that in the film. Not that I wanted to see some nudity. I'm not a sex pervert. But it's because that's the thing that they're known for. So if they're not going to do that, then what's the point? It would seem like they're not proud of their source material. But then George had to go and gobble up the villain, which is the second thing the game is most known for. Picking up bystanders and eating them up. Just chomp in one good old bite. And for that, I say thank you. Thank you for making the death of the main villain a reference.
It's just too bad that it was too cartoony to be satisfying. Why couldn't we include a crunch?
Well, for the lack of gruesomeness we had in that death, we made up for with the brother's death, because he got crushed to a pulp and we briefly saw the blood. We saw all of the blood. Granted, it was out of focus and it was like a blink and you miss it, but it was there nonetheless.
Yeah, I guess that was ballsy. Even more ballsy than having a gorilla eat a human, even though that's not what gorillas usually do.
Well, he probably had to sacrifice his diet, so thank you, George. Thank you for the sacrifice.
Ho, I think I get it now, especially with the next nominee, the Indoraptor. Oh, I specifically remember the theater going wild over this.
Yeah, because if there's anything the Jurassic World franchise is good at, it's consistency. I'm only talking about when the main dinosaur villain gets disposed of. First time it was a croco whale, but since this time we were secluded to a mansion, they had to get real creative with the death. It had to be from a different unexpected means.
And much like the whale-ligator from the first movie, it was not completely out of nowhere. There was some foreshadowing.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they established that Triceratops head in the museum. It was the perfect irony, because this Indoraptor was specifically bred to be the number one perfect predator of them all. 100% killing machine. Just the apex of the apex. And yet, How did it die?
It was killed by a herbivore.
Not just any herbivore, a dead herbivore in a frickin' museum. It got impaled twice at the same time. It got a double impalement from a frickin' herbivore triceratops. Oh, what are the odds that of all the places for that Indoraptor to fall through the ceiling, what are the odds that it would be right there where a sharp thing was? Just, what are the odds? Anywhere else, literally anywhere else it could have fallen and it still would have been alive and then it would have eaten that clone girl. But no, it was meant to be. It was meant to be. By the writers, of course, but that was destiny. That was villain death destiny.
So I guess I don't even need to mention the fourth entry. We already know who's gonna win it.
Now hold on, Ragdoll. Read that entry for me, will you?
Okay, fine. Shere Khan from Mowgli? Wasn't this from 2016?
No, this is 2018 Shere Khan. Now, the reason why I really wanted this on the list was not just because we found a loophole where, we could put this Netflix movie in. It had a limited release in theaters. And before you ask, yes, these villains are only limited to the ones that are in theaters. It's because this show is already big enough as it is, and if we put internet movies on there, then oh good God, this is gonna be like twice as long. So I'm sorry about that, but I wanted to make an exception for this because of how meaningful this death is. This is the death that is not included because of its ridiculousness. No, it's because of what it means. We finally have a Jungle Book movie where Shere Khan, the arch nemesis of Mowgli, dies. We did it. We got him. After all of these decades and decades and decades of adaptations of this book, we killed him.
Are you serious? There's not that many other versions where he dies?
You would think there is, but no. It's always the adaptation of the first part of the Jungle Book. Every time we see the climax, it's always when Mowgli sets him on fire. And he's like, oh, good God, I'll get you for this, Mowgli. I'll be back in a sequel. That Disney did a couple times, like the animated one and the live action one from the 90s. That one, that was meant to be a sequel to the original story. Even those that take place after he got his ass on fire, even those don't kill him. He just keeps being alive, being like, oh, next time, Mowgli, next time. So it's refreshing to finally actually see an adaptation that finally puts an end to this monster.
But doesn't this put Shere Khan at a unfair advantage over the other nominees?
Oh, you're right. Sorry about that, Shere Khan. Maybe when you die in the inevitable Disney sequel, not this sequel, that's for sure, but the Disney sequel, you'll get another chance. But for the time being, the winner is gonna have to be Indoraptor, 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 Indoraptor.
Oh boy, Blob, you sure put me in a good mood. I have to appreciate that, because you don't understand how I'm in constant pain. Just constant, never-ending pain right now. Every waking moment is nothing but searing contempt for my current condition. I envy Mr. Glass, I really do. That is why I regret making fun of him. The only reason why I was doing that is actually because I'm jealous. I'm jealous that his suffering is over. He gets to rest in peace, while I am awake in pieces. Oh, even that pun was painful.
Oh, I'm sorry about that, Ragdoll. Maybe I can give you some ibuprofen. Do you think that'll help? Some painkillers?
I would appreciate that, much obliged, Blob. And in return, I will contact that special villain who is aware of other universes.
You're not talking about Psycho Pirate, are you? That guy's kind of a dick.
No, I'm not talking about that Dr. Doom wannabe. I'm talking about an extra-dimensional being who only knows about all of these universes because he is above them, looking down.
Oh, real intimidating. Bring him on.
Okay, but I am going to need a moment.
Do you think you'll get him by the time I'm done with this next category?
Maybe. Let me see.
Okay, thank you, Ragdoll. I hope you get a spot in the Secret Six show, even though you might have to reboot first. But now, here we go. Best and worst. Starting with worst. And I can't think of a better presenter for the stupidest of all stupidest villains, Dr. Drakken.
I did not have to be this stupid. It was easily avoidable.
Yeah, no kidding. They didn't have to put you on the Disney Channel. You're easily big screen material. You've been tailor-made for that potential.
Now hold on, Blob. I owe my existence to the Disney Channel.
Yeah, as a cartoon, but Kim Possible isn't the type of thing for the Disney Channel if it's gonna be live action. They're just keeping you inside of that box instead of letting you grow and expand.
Well, there could have been many reasons why I had to stay at the kids' table, besides the obvious fact that Disney is already about to make a super spy movie starring a redhead heroine. Are you really sure I would have been any less stupid than I already am?
What on earth would give you that idea? I mean, everything that Disney's doing right now on the big screen is just Oh, now I remember. I forgot. Oh, that's right.
Yes, Disney isn't exactly treating all of their blue characters with the utmost respect at the moment. So did you really want me to get the same treatment as another famous blue character from Disney?
I suppose not. I guess you are better off just having blue veins.
Yes. So either way, this was going to be stupid regardless. But there could have been still a chance of not being stupid.
Yeah, I mean, you still could have been good for a Disney Channel movie. The only problem is that it's still a Disney Channel movie.
Yes, but I would have settled for a good Disney Channel movie. I mean, we were sailing so smoothly throughout the film. Kim Possible had a solid story arc in which she was facing the fact that maybe she's not the most perfect at what she does. But that doesn't mean she should stop doing what she's good at. And do you know what else made it really great? There was no love story. None whatsoever. Oh, that was such a relief.
Wow, that's kind of unique, avoiding a love story. I mean, I thought for sure that's what they were gonna do.
Well, they didn't. They foregone it. There's no romance whatsoever in this. Nothing. I mean, that's kind of bad for me because you know I've got that heat between Shigo. And so we thought, okay, well, we're almost done with this movie. That means that we did it. We're almost done. We're at the home stretch. And then we failed. We fucked up. We made the whole thing stupid right at the end.
Oh man, the ending ruined the whole thing? What happened?
Well, answer me this. Do you recall the film Baby Geniuses 2, Super Babies?
Yeah, I think I do. Didn't the bad guy turn into a baby? But they wouldn't do something as stupid as that to you. Would they?
They did. They turned me into a child. A small, prepubescent child. Oh!
Wow, that's more stupid than I would have expected.
Yes, at least with the Super Babies movie, that made sense, because that's what the whole movie was building up to. But here, it just came out of fucking nowhere.
Well, I mean, thematically, it kind of makes sense.
What?
Well, I mean, you do spend the whole movie just trying to act young, talking about memes and trying to speak the young people lingo. So in a way, it's like a careful what you wish for scenario. You were a child on the inside, and now you're a child on the outside.
I suppose this isn't completely out of left field. There was one point where I was de-aged into a child on the show, but that was quickly undone. I have to stay like this for the next movie.
Oh, well, maybe you don't have to worry about that, because this was the lowest rated of all of the Disney Channel movies.
Well, that's not a surprise. They've been steadily going down in the ratings with each film. This is just being consistent with the pattern. Do you really think this is going to discourage them from continuing this shittery?
Well, just look at the bright side. If you come back for a sequel, that gives you a chance to fix this.
I suppose it would be really sucky if this was the last time you ever saw me, Dr. Drakken. I mean, why couldn't we just end with me having plant powers and finally getting lucky with Shigo?
Yeah, that kind of puts a strain on the relationship now that you're too young for her.
That's the worst part. Now she has to be my mama. Even if I do turn back into an adult, things will be way too awkward.
Maybe if you take a look at these nominees, you'll find a villain stupider than you.
I highly doubt that, but okay. First up is Red from A Wrinkle in Time.
Oh man, was this a huge disappointment. Because I prepared myself for this movie by seeing the TV movie. You know a thing or two about the limitations of TV movies. Too soon. Sorry. But seriously though, when you compare the two movies, the TV one is actually better with the villain. Because there he's actually a character. He doesn't take a back seat when the small kid becomes evil. No, he's still the main threat of the movie. Whereas here, it's the other way around. As soon as the little kid becomes evil, Red is literally a puppet. Like, he's literally a puppet. He's got strings and everything. And I was so excited because the TV version of Red was just so simple, just really cliche, just evil businessman attire. Why would you pick the form of a businessman when you can literally pick any form you want? So I thought that at least this version looked more unique. It was a far less conventional way of doing it. And yet, we barely had him there. He just barely served any purpose whatsoever. We didn't even need him. All we seemed to need was just for the small child to get corrupted, and then we heard a big booming voice, and that was it. There is no reason to have Red there. There is no reason to have a vessel for the It. Do you know what Red should have done? He should have been like, no, screw this little child and his stupid scenery-chewing little ass. I'm just gonna kick him out of the movie. I'm just gonna kick him the fuck out of the movie. He annoys everyone. He's supposed to be sympathetic, but no one can have sympathy for him because he's just a little dick. So fuck him. I'm the main villain.
Yes. I suppose the one thing that's worse than being turned into a child is being upstaged by one.
There you go. We're cheering you up already. Now let's move on to Matthias from Tomb Raider.
That movie isn't that bad. It was perfectly mediocre.
Yeah, as a whole, it was fine, but when you look at the villain, his stupid ass was trying to find a super secret cave and find a secret treasure that's responsible for killing millions. Didn't he realize that this was gonna backfire?
Well, he thought it was too far-fetched. He thought for sure that it was some kind of myth.
Well, it turned out it wasn't a myth. It was actually a disease, a realistic disease that turns people into zombies. Oh, zombos. And he could have not been stupid, because he could have turned into a big badass by turning into a zombie. But what makes him stupid is that by the time he turns into a zombie, he can't even do any zombie shit, because he's at the bottom of a trench already stabbed. So by the time he gets an upgrade, he can't even use it.
Yes, that's another thing I have experience of. Spending the whole movie not being stupid until right at the end.
And that's the same case with the next nominee, Sandra from the Happy Time Murders. But not just her, Jenny too.
Oh, that concept had so much potential. What's more funny than a bunch of cursing puppets?
Well, it definitely wasn't the villains, I'll tell you that. Because if you're gonna have a world full of puppets, then you should utilize that concept. These characters weren't embracing their puppet behavior. They were all serious and shit. And what was even more serious was the plot twist that we didn't even need.
Alright, Ginny turned out to be fucking Sandra, continuing the notorious plot trope of bisexuals being evil.
Yeah, it seemed like they only did that because they wanted to give a reason why Sandra would inherit all of the money. Like, oh, if every single cast member from that show dies, then where does the money go? So they had to come up with a way for her to get those residuals.
But she already had a motive. She wanted to exact revenge for her dead puppet father. She didn't need the money.
I don't know. Maybe they wanted to give Elizabeth Banks more screen time. It still didn't make a difference. Even Sandra's death wasn't funny. She just got shot in the head and that was it. Nothing comical.
I suppose that makes my defeat less stupid, because at least mine was played up for laughs, since that's the whole point of my character.
See, I told you this was gonna make you feel better. And we're not even done. We still got one more. Grindelwald from Fantastic Beasts and Where to Be Disappointed by Them.
I don't understand why everyone's pissed off by this guy. He's basically just doing the Lord Voldemort thing all over again, and no one hated Lord Voldemort for barely doing anything each movie until right at the end of the franchise.
Yeah, well, at least with Voldemort, you kept wondering what he was gonna do right at the end, if you did not read the books. But with this guy, it's really not that interesting because we already know what's gonna happen to him. That he's gonna pass the legacy on to little Voldemort eventually. We already know that he's not gonna die yet for a very, very long time. So what's the point of building up his big plan if we know that it didn't even happen? We already know that he's not going to prevent World War II from happening. Spoiler alert, it still happens. He didn't do shit to the human race. The human race is still intact in the present. So we know that whatever his plans were are gonna be all to shit.
Yes. What they should have done for this franchise is just have it be a standalone story each time. Don't build it up to something that you already know is not going to happen.
Exactly. But is it the most stupid?
I would say that the stupidest is Red, because now that I know what it's like to be a child again, it just makes me hate them even more.
I'm gonna have to go with Sandra and Jenny. This whole movie was supposed to be a riot, just a huge laughing riot. And the villains just didn't supply that whatsoever. And I know that they were trying to be dramatic about it and give this movie stakes, but imagine the plot twist if it turns out that a funny puppet was the villain the whole time. That really would have saved it in my eyes. So I'm gonna go with them.
Well, let's see, Squad Fam. Let's see. Say what?
Yep, the villain even having anything to do with a child is just gonna make the whole experience sucky.
You don't have to tell me that, chunk. Oh, Lord, he coming. Oh, Lord, he coming, chunk. You chunk.
Wow, you did deserve what you got for trying to be young. But what I don't understand is, how come you don't look young right now? You still look like a middle-aged man.
Oh, look at the time. I have to go. Bye.
He's probably been stripped of enough dignity already. We don't need Mr. Goodplot to draw him as a child. Mr. Goodplot would just cringe too much. I don't want to do that to that little beaver furry. Well, anyway, we're at the end of the show. The final award. The best overall villain. So the honor of presenting the most prestigious award goes to the villain that exemplified the best of us within the past year. And so it's shocking to no one that this honor goes to none other than Thanos. Yes. Now, unfortunately, we were not able to get him in person. As you might be aware, he is currently on sabbatical after achieving his lifelong goals. However, he agreed to communicate to us through a live feed. Thanos, can you hear us? Can you hear us, Thanos? You're live right now, Thanos. The hills are alive with the sound of music. Oh boy, that was not what I was expecting. We really don't have time for this. Cut the feed before he gets to the Nazi part. Goodbye, on Wiedersehen, goodbye. Oh, this award show is going to shit. How in the blazing blaze are we gonna save this night?
Behold, I am the monitor. Am I at the right place? The Villys.
Oh, great. Are you here to murder me too? Or you might as well, considering how bad of a job I'm doing.
I was notified by one of those rejects from Circus Soleil who has to moonlight as one of those haunters at Universal Studios.
You mean Ragdoll?
Yeah, that guy, Ragdoll. He told me that a particular fat boy wanted to have a chat.
Yeah, I do. I want to know what happened to these two guys. Look at them. They were promised to have a comeback this year. After almost 20 years of this guy's absent, he was going to have his big comeback, along with this newcomer who was young and hungry. And yet, look at them. They're already dead. They practically died right when we thought that the franchise was back.
Well, Frederick, those are the inhabitants of the Unbreakable verse. Of all the universes I have observed, this is the one that has made me the most curious. It's a very odd universe. What makes it stand out from every other one is how realistic it tries to be.
Well, that's not new. There's plenty of universes that try to do that too. And besides, how can it be realistic if it has superpowers in it?
Not realistic in the way you think. Because even if all of the other superhero universes tried to put the realistic twist on things, they still have to follow a basic formula.
Yeah, I know that formula. You don't have to explain it.
But if the concept of superpowered beings really existed in the real world, how sure are you that it would follow that formula? Who's to say it wouldn't at all? Who's to say it would be completely different?
What, you mean that every single superpowered character just dies? Is that what you're saying? They just get killed? Even the hero?
Even the hero.
Wouldn't the government regulate the heroes?
That's too much like those other universes. If there is going to be a secret organization, why would you be so sure that they're here to regulate? Don't you remember? The whole point of the Unbreakable verse is to go against the curve, not just by being realistic, but breaking every single trope, just shooting it in the gut and killing it dead.
Really? That was the point of the universe? I guess that's what they were doing from the very start. Even with the Horde, he didn't even present himself as a supervillain until right at the end, just like Mr. Glass. They were never trying to be like every other supervillain. And sure, it is like a supervillain to die, but to die not in the hands of the hero? Instead, to die from a force that we didn't even know about until right then? I guess that's just staying true, isn't it?
Yes, and the hero dying as well. It was always going to go a completely unexpected route.
Well, I guess I should respect that. They took a really big risk, a huge risk, and they didn't care if we were all gonna hate the result.
But it's not too bleak of an ending for this universe. The legacy will continue, despite what the secret organization wanted. Those three will live on, as an example of what people can do with their gifts.
Well, I guess part of the blame is on us. We should have known that they were going to continue going down the unconventional superhero route. If it was gonna be another classic type of superhero story, then what would have been the whole point of all this?
And that is why we need this unbreakable verse, to show us that the scenario of superheroes could always go down a different path none of us foresaw.
Well, I guess this means that their deaths were not in vain. They died with a purpose, a cautionary purpose, that none of us should ever go to that universe ever, because we're gonna immediately die. We might become like an example though, but I don't want to die. Oh, if these two had been born in my universe, or any of these other vast universes, they would have been able to live for a long, long time and be cherished instead of only being loved by one person each. I'm sorry, sweet prince, and sweet other prince. You were just born in the wrong universe. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry.
Do you need a moment?
No, I'm fine. I'm fine. Thank you, Rip-Off Watcher. Thank you for showing me the way.
Oh, here we go again. Another accusation that I'm a rip-off of the Watcher.
Well, isn't that what you do? You just observe all of the universes, and you claim not to tamper that much with them, even though you constantly do that?
The difference between me and the Watcher is that I am not in denial of my tampering of the universes.
So, since you are aware of literally everything, then does that mean you're also aware of all of these nominees?
Of course I am. I even know who's going to win. It is...
Wait. Don't just give away who's the best overall villain of the year. We need to build that shit up, starting with Sorrento from Ready Player One.
I don't know about that one. He is very basic and very by the rules. He's just one of those cliche big business CEOs.
Well, isn't that the whole point of Ready Player One? It's supposed to be an homage to those classic type of little guy against the big system type movies. It's supposed to emulate that.
But it offers nothing new.
Now hold on. An overused archetype can still be interesting depending on what this particular interpretation is. And in this context, it's a poser, which is very much a thing that you see all the time in fanboy culture. I'm not trying to badmouth anyone who does that, who tries to be a fan, because sometimes they legitimately want to like the thing. They want to be a part of something bigger than themselves. They just don't know where to start. And so, sure, at first they might come off as a fake fan, but that's only because they want to be a real fan. They just need some help. But Sorrento, on the other hand, he's posing as a fanboy for disingenuous reasons. He doesn't want to do it because he wants to be a fan. He wants to do it just so he can get that grand prize. Full control of the Oasis brand. That's all he cares about. This is the type of poser that we should hate. He doesn't give a shit about living his fantasy of being a fictional character that he loves. look at his avatar. It's still a businessman, but it's a badass businessman. Because even he can't help himself. Sure, his avatar could have just been just like him. But no, he's like, you know what? I'm just gonna make this look like what I want. So I'm gonna give him a thicker jaw. I'm gonna make him all big and bulky and all Frankensteinish. And he's gonna be a badass. He's still gonna be a businessman, but he's gonna be a bad businessman ass.
But wait a minute. None of the other characters use famous IP.
Okay, don't think about it too hard. Let's just move on to the next nominee. Walker and Solomon. Yes, the dynamic duo from Mission Impossible 6.
It seems as though that Solomon got on here because he's the first main villain to ever show up in more than one of these.
Yeah, he's the first villain to actually be recurring. And from the way this movie ends, it looks to me like he's gonna be here for a long, long time.
But he's becoming less and less of an actual villain and more of a living MacGuffin.
Oh yeah, it does seem like everyone's trying to get a hold of him. And that's the whole source of conflict of the movie is, who's got Solomon now? Is it us or is it the bad guys? Oh, hot potato, hot potato.
He's not even worth their time. They just hand him over to the underground dealers.
Yeah, I guess he's not important enough to be held custody by the proper authorities.
That's why Walker was here to do the heavy lifting.
Good old Walker. Who needs the DCEU when you've got this franchise to... Oh, wait a minute. I just forgot he died. He got stabbed right in the face. And he's dead. And even if he did survive, he probably wouldn't want to live for that long, because right before he died, he was horribly disfigured. Just really bad disfigured.
And yet somehow it was not big enough of a disfigurement to affect his level of handsomeness.
Yeah, he still managed to pull it off. That is amazing. That is tip-top right there.
But who knows? Maybe amongst the wreckage we will see dirt, and that dirt will begin to rise.
And then it will not be paid off, because in the next movie he will come back in a completely unrelated way. And then he'll never be on the franchise again, even though he's back. Okay, now let's talk about the family business. The Drago business.
From Creed 2. Drago Jr. and Drago Sr.
But am I really talking about those two, though? Not to say those two don't make good villains or anything. I mean, who would have thunk that after such a very gritty, very grounded movie like Creed, it seemed like a stretch to just assume that they would go all the way back to the more campy era of the franchise. Back when everything was ludicrous. I mean, they're going off of the movie that had a frickin' robot in it. A frickin' shark-jumping robot. A sex robot that Paulie obviously fucked all the time.
So why isn't Drago Sr. the main villain?
Because in the end, he realized that what he wants most is not for the Drago name to be redeemed, it's to have his son, because he already lost his wife, so why should he have to lose his son too? And he of all people should know that a death match like this will literally end in death. So he calls it off. He throws in the towel because he loves his son too much.
So, does that mean that Drago Jr. is the real villain?
No, not him either. Because at first, he is really pissed off at his dad. Just really furious. But when we see in the epilogue, they're doing fine. They're exercising and they're having father-son time. They're having quality time together. Which is something that we don't really see in the Rocky films. Usually it just ends right there at the match. But if we do see an epilogue, it's always just the heroes. It's never the villains.
So why isn't Drago Sr. the main villain then?
Wait a minute, I thought you were the Monitor. You're supposed to already know who the villain is.
Yes, I am just going along with it. I know that the true villain is Mama Drago.
Yes, the mother of Drago Jr. and the wife of Drago Sr. She's the one who's truly heartless. Ivan Drago was heartless at first, but he grew soft. He grew a soft side. But Mrs. Drago, on the other hand, she stayed, and it really changes the context of Rocky IV. We thought for sure that she was only a mouthpiece for Drago, but in reality, Drago was more of just a pawn that she was using. And once it seemed like he was no longer of use to her and lost the match, she dropped him immediately. Just rejected the both of them.
And only when her son started being famous did she come crawling back.
And guess what happened right when it seemed like he was gonna lose that climactic fight? She skedaddled again. She booked it.
My God.
Exactly. You don't even need to punch anybody's face to be the biggest villain of the Rocky franchise.
But how come the Drago boys are on the docket and not her?
Oh, that's because she also rejected us too.
Maybe she did that because she wanted all the nominees to be duos.
Oh yeah, I never noticed that. Even Sorrento is kind of a duo if you count his avatar. But a better example of a duo is the one that's joined at the hip. Shatter and Dropkick from Bumblebee.
What a redemption. The Transformers franchise has gone from being nominated for Stupidest Villain to Best Villain.
Yeah, and what a shocker, right? The entry that the Transformers franchise gave us was Quintessa, and she represents something that's very important to the Transformers lore. But these two, on the other hand, they're just a couple of random Decepticons, and yet they were still more likable. And here's the reason why. They trimmed it down. They just took out all of the fat. Just trimmed the fat. We got to spend time with them. We got to see how manipulative they were and how opportunistic they were to take advantage of humans. They didn't just destroy the humans all willy-nilly, well except for that redneck guy, but it was probably obvious that Earthling was of no use to them. But the scientist and the government official and the guy who you can't see, they saw the potential in those humans, and they took the opportunity. They weren't stupid like the previous Decepticons probably would be, or should I say the future Decepticons, since this is supposed to be the past. I guess I'm still not sure if it's the same exact past. What a difference does it make to just get rid of all of the access? There are so many well-known Transformers that have been squandered in this franchise, and there's no point in using them if they're only going to show up for a couple of seconds and then immediately die. So if you just simplify everything, just give us just only two. 3 tops. They can still legitimately be a threat, and you can even get away with them literally exploding humans as long as you make it goop instead of blood. Just have the humans turn into goop. It makes it very gruesome while still PG at the same time. Because guess what? Now these can actually be for kids now. Oh, who would have thunk that you would have wanted this to be appropriate for kids? What the fuck?
Yes, I can't wait to get the payoff where we see more of the Decepticons. Oh, wait a minute. We already saw that. And it was uncomprehendable.
Look, I really don't give a fuck about continuity at this rate. I just want all of the Decepticons to be redone better in this way. Just screw it. Just redo all of them. Let's actually see Shockwave and Soundwave. Not just cameos. Let's just flat out see them. Let's actually get them in there and have them play important roles. Let's do it. Let's do it. Just fuck continuity. Fuck continuity in the ass. Fuck it. And let's do things right this time. Let's do it. Now, let's see who wins this puppy. Who is the best overall villain of the year? Who?
Well, according to my observation of every outcome that could possibly happen, every scenario always ends with Buddy Marcel.
What the fuck? 2 years in a row, this has happened. The winner wasn't even nominated. I think we need to do something about this. Jesus Christ.
What? You don't think Buddy Marcel doesn't deserve it?
Well, considering that we have to explain who that is for some people who probably don't remember Creed 2 that well, Buddy Marcel was the guy who made the match between Drago and Creed possible. The new Drago and Creed, he's the one who did it. He took advantage of that feud between those two clans. He saw the opportunity in it. He was like, wait. So this legendary boxer got killed by this other boxer, but both boxers have children who are now boxers of their own? I've got to take advantage of this. This is potential right here. He was exploiting the death of Apollo Creed. He was exploiting it.
Yes, he's the one who got the whole ball rolling. If it wasn't for him, then the Dragos would have never met the new Creed.
Before Buddy Marcel showed up, Drago was trapped in the middle of nowhere with his son. They were trapped in the slums, in the Russian slums. He was rejected by everyone, literally everybody. Nobody wanted to touch him. So how on earth could he have made the right contacts to rematch with Creed? He had nothing. I mean, if he lived here in America, then he probably would have just bitched about it on Twitter, and then he would have gotten enough hype around it. But in Russia, he probably doesn't even have a phone. So it was Buddy who plucked him from the slums, from the abyss. He's the one who had to go out of his way to look for Drago.
And it wasn't even for honor, because with the Dragos, they were at least trying to win back the honor from their country, while Buddy just saw the money in it.
Well, that's it. Those are the awards. I guess this is just gonna be a recurring thing now, huh? Somebody's just gonna swoop in right at the last minute.
Now hold on. If we expect it to happen next year, maybe that means it won't happen.
Oh, you're right. That's gonna make things more interesting next year. Oh, I feel so much better now that I know why we had to say goodbye to these fallen titans. Mr. Glass no longer has to suffer through his physical pain, and the Horde no longer has to suffer through emotional pain.
And I no longer have to suffer through the pain of having to squander my abilities talking about fictional villains. I need to return my focus to the CW.
I've got my priorities too. I've been focusing so much on animated villains that I didn't realize that, you know what? What about the villains that don't go by the rules? I will be broadening my horizons in the memory of the ones who fell through the cracks. Oh, I'm too sad to even appreciate that play on words. Well, that was a lovely tribute, although it made me realize that we didn't really have much of a variety of photos. Oh well.
Hey, how come I wasn't in this year's award show?
Oh, sorry, Red Mist. I think we have a new policy where you have to have been a part of a recent superhero event in order to participate.
What?
Don't worry, Red Mist. You're gonna be rebooted in no time.
But I don't want to reboot. Rebooting is hard.
Bitch, I was rebooted before I was even bought by Disney.